morning, Watermark family. It's been 3 days now since we celebrated the Lord's Supper. And let me just give you a recap of what we talked about last Sunday. The Lord's Supper is an extraordinary meal. To be sure, it's simply an ordinary means of God's grace to His church. But as eating and drinking goes, it can be an unusually powerful experience along with baptism. Luke tells us in chapter 22 that it's so much more. His account of the Lord's Supper provides for us 5 magnificent reasons why this meal is above all others. Number 1, it is rooted in redemption. Because of our need for forgiveness, this meal is for you. Its root extends deep into the history of God's people and the riches of God's character. Luke's account makes it clear that Jesus celebrated a Passover meal, recalling God's deliverance of Israel from slavery in Egypt. We're reminded that God is eager to save His people. Even as Jesus observes a Passover meal, He elevates it, claiming that it is ultimately about His own death. Jesus is the Lamb who takes away the sins of the world. We receive this meal because we have been delivered from death and hell. Number 2, it is planned by Jesus Himself. Do you relish being at the table of a host who rejoices at your presence? This meal is for you. Jesus provides elaborate instructions for Peter and John about how and where to prepare the Passover. It's clear that this meal is Jesus' idea. It occurs at His initiative, under His leadership, and according to His plan. Jesus carefully plans the meal, then says to His disciples, "I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer." He longs for us to join Him at His table. Number 3, it anticipates the future. Do you want to foretaste of the new creation? This meal is for you. The reason is Jesus is eager to share the meal with us disciples is that He won't eat it again until it's fulfilled in the kingdom. The implication of Jesus' word is that the Lord's Supper anticipates and begins a glorious future feast with the Messiah in Revelation chapter 19. Paul was looking forward to this when he said in verse 26 of 1 Corinthians 11, "As often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until He comes." The meal heightens our desire for the full and final feast. Number 4, it recalls Jesus' substitutionary death. So if you desire a deeper understanding of Jesus' death, this meal is for you. Jesus says, "Do this in remembrance of me." We're to remember not just the soldiers, the scourging, the thorns, the nails, but their redemptive meaning. This is my body which is given for you. We remember that Jesus dies as our substitute. We also remember that by the shedding of His blood for us, our sins are fully forgiven. As we share this meal, we remember His unique, once and for all, fully sufficient substitutionary death. Lastly, it forms a new community. Immediately after eating, Jesus' disciples dispute as to which of them was to be regarded as the greatest. They've clearly missed the meal's meaning. Luke moves immediately from the institution of the Lord's Supper to Jesus' teaching about humble service. Is that what He wants us to see? That His death in our place is meant to form a new community, creating in us servant hearts, propelling us to love one another in humble ways. Long ago, J.C. Ryle wrote, "He that eats the bread and drinks the wine in a right spirit will find himself drawn into closer communion with Christ and will feel to know Him more and understand Him better." This is still true today. This promise is for us when we feast at Jesus' table. I hope that you will join us tonight during prayer at 8:05. Our theme for tonight's prayer meeting is God is near. May God bless you.